Hello, and welcome to this video series about using Internet Information Services version 7, also called IIS 7. The techniques will be shown on Windows Vista, and you can also do these same things with the version of IIS 7 that's found in Longhorn Server. This video in the series describes what you need to know in order to get started, installing the modules that are necessary for serving out ASP and ASP.NET pages. IIS 7 has a modular architecture, and you install only the modules that you need. From the control panel, under Programs, you can select Turn Windows Features on or off. This user account control pop-up appears, asking if we really intended to begin this operation. It requires elevated privileges. Keeping the UAC enabled like this offers a great safeguard against many kinds of attacks from malware. Now let's go ahead and run this with elevated privilege so we can install IIS. When we select Internet Information Services, we see that by default, only a portion of everything is installed. FTP Publishing Service, by default, for instance, is not installed. Also under World Wide Web Services, many features under Security are not installed. The reason is twofold. By not installing these modules, there's both less memory requirement and also less of an attack surface, so there's less chance of a security issue coming up. It's not shown here, but anonymous authentication is enabled. And also, let's turn on then Windows authentication. This is perfect for enabling us to authenticate against an Active Directory environment. Of the various other options, performance features allow for compression to occur, both either with static or with dynamically generated content. Health and Diagnostics offers the ability to troubleshoot using logging and tracing. We'll see how these features work in another video coming up in the series. Common HTTP features are things that you probably would want to leave enabled. The ability to serve out a default document for a given website. Having directory browsing. By choosing this, it doesn't mean that everyone will be able to do directory browsing across your whole set of sites. It's just giving that potential that you can turn it on or turn it off later. Static content means HTML files, images, cascading style sheets, and other files that are a part of your website. So now, how about dynamic content? By default, none of this is turned on. We have the ability to serve out either classic ASP pages, which work via an ISAPI extension, or the newer ASP.NET style pages. ASP.NET offers better performance and better security compared with classic ASP. When it's chosen, it turns on more features, the .NET extensibility, which allows the web server to be able to work with .NET code. ISAPI filters as well as ISAPI extensions, because all of ASP.NET gets routed through an ISAPI filter. The Common Gateway Interface, or CGI, offers support for scripted pages such as Perl, Python, and PHP. But there's a better way to serve out PHP pages. Microsoft has made available something called Fast CGI. Another video in this series takes a look at how to enable this for PHP pages. So that's everything that we need to be able to serve out pages. What about to be able to manage the environment? By default, we have this IIS Management Console enabled. It will let us administer IIS either on a local machine or on a machine across the network. In addition, a version of this tool is available for download and installation on Windows XP. So if you haven't had the opportunity yet to upgrade to Windows Vista, still you can manage IIS 7 environments. On the website IIS.net, just search for Remote Manager for IIS 7. If you'd like to allow this installation of IIS to be administered remotely, you'll want to turn on this IIS management service. By default, for security reasons, it's turned off. IIS 7 now stores its configuration information differently than was done with IIS 6 and older. There used to be the metabase, but now all those various different configuration settings are placed in easier-to-use XML files. But to maintain compatibility with the old environment, there's this section of tools, Management Compatibility. The most fundamental option to be able to enable this compatibility is this IIS Metabase and IIS 6 configuration compatibility. If you intend to use Visual Studio 2005 on Vista and intend to open up local websites, then this option is essential. Additionally, if you have other scripts and such that you would like to run from IIS 6, then you would need to turn on these features as well. Compatibility with the WMI interface, and also the IIS 6 scripts. I'll go ahead and leave these turned off to be able to enhance security. The new IIS 7 Management Console does not have the facility to administer the old IIS 6 environments, so for convenience, this IIS 6 Management Console is available. Also, if you'd like to configure the SMTP service, it's essential that you do that from this IIS 6 Management Console. We'll see in a moment that the two versions of the Management Console get installed side by side so you can choose which one to run. Well, that's our choices. Let's go ahead and let it configure. While we're waiting for this installation to complete, I should mention that if you want to automate the installation of any of these pieces found under Turn Windows Features On or Off, you can do so with something called pkg-mgr.exe. In this way, using scripts, you can easily configure multiple machines to have all the same settings. Well, now that the installation's done, let's see what we get. If we surf to HTTP localhost, we get this welcome page that has been provided by IIS 7. By default, these files are stored on the C drive under inetpub www.root. The IIS management tool allows us to administer this installation of Internet Information Services. This can be done in the control panel, under System and Maintenance, and Administrative Tools. Here we see both the older IIS 6 management tool as well as the newer IIS 7 tool. Another UAC pop-up, just making sure that there's nobody that's trying to hack here. And here's the new environment. If you're familiar with IIS 6, then this tree at the left will look very familiar, with an ability to drill down into the existing websites that may exist. But this other content panel is much different. To get a look that's very much like IIS 6's management tool, you can use this content view, and then as you change between the various different folders, content that's found inside will be shown. And then the options that you would normally do from the properties of a given item have instead been moved over to this features view. So by default, what you get in this content pane are all the different properties that you can modify for a given item. These properties change as you make different selections. Recall that when we had installed IIS, we only opted to have a couple of authentication mechanisms available. And we see our choices here. Anonymous is installed by default. Windows Authentication is an additional option that we had chosen. Even though it's installed, it's disabled by default, so we can go through and be able to enable it if we wish on each individual website where we want it. With an item chosen, then under the Actions pane on the right, the various options are shown for us. For instance, if I were to select the default website, then actions include to modify the basic settings, which include the application pool that this website runs in, and also the physical path where it's found. Bindings are another important setting related to a website. But to see the full feature set, I can then reference Advanced Settings, which shows me a list of all the different properties that can be modified for a given item. For this website, we can modify such things as connection limits and other features that are normally not needed. Usually we would want to administer just based on the basic settings and the bindings. During installation, we talked about the various features as being modules, and here we see, under the IIS heading, the various modules. Some are implemented with native code, meaning native 32-bit or 64-bit code, depending on your installation. And some are managed, meaning that they were written with .NET code. If you'd like to extend the IIS environment, then you can add either native or managed modules. And available on IIS.net is a starter kit that allows you to create a managed module easily in the Visual Studio environment. We hope that this video has been a good introduction to be able to get you started with the installation of IIS 7 inside of Windows Vista or Windows Server 2008.